It's time for the 32081 Scoreboard Show. Let's recap the latest weekly scores and highlights from around the county.
Hello 32081 fans, I am Brady Stoudemire from the Nease wrestling team, and I want to congratulate the Panthers football team on a perfect season. And now entering the studios, Anthony Richards and the Todd. Panthers, let's beat Tate, let's go.
And thank you, Brady, from the Nease wrestling team for that great introduction. Also like to give a shout out to Coach Lucas for helping us get that set up over at Nease. We love having all the sports represented here. And as Brady said, as always, as I introduce him, the man, the myth, the legend, the hardest working reporter in Northeast Florida in the 32081 and Ponte Vedra area, Mr. Anthony Richards. Anthony, how you doing on the eve of playoffs?
I'm doing great, Todd. They can't see it, listeners out there, but I'm smiling. I'm ready for the playoffs.
Oh, I hear it. I hear your smile, man. I don't know if that's because we've been texting and stuff, but I hear it. So, you can admit you're wearing your cleats to bed. We know that. Okay, it's all good. Anyway, we are still working on getting some updates from Nease, but just to let you know, Miss Rosati from over at the PV athletic department sent over some updates that I thought would be great. And I know you've been covering some of this too, Anthony, but one thing also to throw out here, Brian Case, who you and I have really enjoyed covering the last 4 years now, he was actually voted the Jaguars Player of the Week for his outstanding performance against Creekside. And I want to say one thing here is that one thing Ms. Rosati said in her update here, and I want to share it because it's great to hear this about students, but she actually said he will be one student that will be very hard to say goodbye to, but I know Brian's future is bright. So I know you and I really enjoyed covering him. He's great, a young man. So congratulations to him on Player of the Week. Actually, we've done pretty good there, right? Because Brian's got it. Nate Harry had it from Nease, Elijah Luckett, and also Coach Drafts got Coach of the Week. So the 32081 is very well represented over there in the Jaguars Player of the Week.
Yeah, they've been coming down here a lot to recognize who we got,
Yeah, they might as well just go ahead and get a satellite office. What do you think?
Yeah.
So
might as well.
Yeah, exactly. So the Ponte Vedra cross country team, they competed in the 3A Region 1 championship in Panama City, and I didn't realize this, but that was only 5 days after they won the 3 District 2A championship. And I'm sitting here, Anthony's thinking, geez, I have a hard time running once a week. But anyways, so these young adults were out there, but the PV girls secured the Region 1 championship with 59 points. That's very impressive. And the individual champion Daisy Ross came in with an 18-18 time. I would have done that if I was in a golf cart. And they also put 5 finishers in the top 20. So that's fantastic. And then Ponte Vedra boys cross-country team finished 3rd overall, which was very impressive. And they put 3 finishers in the top 15. And then, Anthony, I know you were following this too. We were talking about before we came on about the girls swimming team, the Ponte Vedra Sharks swimming team. 4 Petes as Foch's 3A state champs. That's incredible when you say that. 4 times.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. I mean, imagine being a senior, part of that senior class. Like, you don't know what it feels like not to win a state title at the end of each year.
Imagine being the coaches, Kyle Perry and Ashley. I mean, what have they done? I mean, that's fantastic. And then you look right down the street, and who's in second place? Nease. So it was again a great showing by the 32081. Congratulations to the girls swimming team. There were tons of accolades for them. I can't go through all of them, but they Penny Zarkinski. She had an incredible meet, taking gold in all 4 events. And this is one thing I want to share that I thought was interesting from the notes that Ms. Rosati sent me. Did you know that she was the only athlete in all 3A to have a perfect championship season? So from districts to regionals to prelims at states and state finals, she came in first. She had a perfect run. That's incredible. That is
I know.
really incredible.
When I heard that, I was like, man, that's just to keep that consistency when it gets the highest level of competition is just amazing. It doesn't matter what level you're at. That's an amazing accomplishment for an athlete.
And then the girls 200 medley relay, they got their 4th straight title in the event as well. And then the 200 freestyle relay as well. So they just racked up down there. The boys swimming placed 5th at the 3A state championship meet, which is one of their best finishes in recent years. So congratulations to them. And both boys and girls soccer, they got started off with wins, 6-1 for the boys over Providence, and the girls soccer team won 2-1 over Stanton Prep. So things are getting started in some other sports over there. So we love to cover them. Like I said, if you want to reach out and give us some updates about your sports, we love to hear from you, and we love to cover them. So that's all right here. Let me get these papers over here. Got all those updated. Now, this is a little bit of a different format, Anthony, because we didn't have Ponte Vedra playing last week. So we're going to skip Ponte Vedra. We're going to go directly to the Nease Bartram game. You were there for the whole game. I was there for the whole game. What a shootout. What a shootout. Now, I do want to, there's some things I definitely want to talk about, but when you do look at the stats, of course, KJ Perry, his stats look like a slot machine. 222 yards rushing. I mean, unbelievable, right? So, and I think he had 4 touchdowns, if I remember correctly. And then Nate Harry was passed for 232 yards, 65% completion rating, 137.7 quarterback rating, 2 touchdowns passing. The 3 key wide receivers there, Braden Felder with 77 yards. Tyler Gazenfari, I mean, he's just been on fire this season. 88 yards. He tags on 2 touchdowns. Maddox Spencer with 70. It was a great night for the offense. It was a shootout with a 56-42 win, but the offense looked really good, and it looks like they're going to head into this week's playoff game full steam ahead.
Yeah, they really did. All both passing and rushing. It was great to see KJ, really explode for a game like that right before the playoffs. He's getting kind of lathered up and really getting going now at the time of year where you need to be. And I kind of highlighted the offensive line for Nease in the article I did, that night following the game, and got a lot of quotes from offensive linemen because a lot of times the offensive line don't get highlighted too often unless you're doing a false start or getting a holding penalty. So it's nice to pump up those guys because that was a group where we had wondered beginning of the year, they lost so many guys, how are they going to mesh? And they've just meshed so quickly from day one. And they're a big reason why they've been able to pass protect, run block, just do it all, whatever the coaching staff asks. And I mean, I know Coach Drafts will be the first to tell you it starts and ends with the offensive line. If they don't do their job, the play can't happen. So, yeah, they deserve a lot of credit. And just the whole offense in general is really starting to click right now.
I think also a key stat here that I looked at was that KJ was accounted for 8 first down runs. 8. That's pretty impressive that he was able to keep drives going for that long.
Yeah, no, I mean, he's getting those chunk yards. We know he's pretty physical, but he's also got that speed. It's a really good combination. And yeah, if the hole's there, he can hit it. And next thing you know, 9 yards. I mean, it's pretty big chunk plays, or even more if he breaks a tackle. And I wouldn't want to try to catch him in the open field. So that's for sure.
On the defensive side, we saw some great defense from the front as well as from the linebacker court. Noah Hodge led the team with 11 tackles. Joe Miracle with 8. And then Jacob Curry and Kyle Hurtado both had I wrote down 8. Was it 8 or 6? But either way, those were the top tacklers on the defense. The one thing here, I did get a chance to talk to Jacob Curry after the game. I'll play that in just a second. But the one thing that scares me here, when you look at the score here, is that with Shamar McNair out, I think we saw a little bit of a weakness, in my opinion, in the secondary. They seem to struggle a little bit against the receivers as well as, once their running back could get into that secondary past the linebackers, he was able to push away from them. But it seems like that's something that I'm sure Coach Garth is going to address during this week before they take on Tate this Friday night, because like I said, it did look like there was a little sign of weakness there, and Colson Baum was kind of able to take advantage of it as a quarterback for Bartram.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a couple games now strung together that Shamar has been out, and I think they've been able to kind of work around it. But this was the first game where, I agree. I noticed it as well. You could notice that the Bartram athletes in space were able to get some big chunk plays and make some things happen, have some long touchdowns that you just weren't really accustomed to seeing. The Nease defense give up all year. So yeah, but it's nothing. I don't think an adjustment, can't kind of continue to help, cover. I mean, you hope that Jamar, is out there, and you'd rather have him out there because obviously of his experience and all that. But yeah, Coach Garth just continues to have to try to find ways to just kind of, fill the gaps and just keep the thing rolling.
And as I said, I was able to catch up with Jacob Curry after the game. I asked him what it was like to finish this perfect season, especially with his fellow classmates in 2026, and then asked him about having to roll right into the playoffs without a week off, and this is what he had to say.
Hey, listen, Jake, let me ask you a question. First of all, going into next week with the playoffs, how do you like the fact that you're going directly into the playoffs versus saying have a week off? Will it help you keep the momentum, or, I mean, how do you guys feel?
I think we just keep the momentum going, keep winning, just – that when we have that week off, it just kind of like slows everything down. But when we go right into it, I think we'll have good momentum. 9-0 season, no breaks in between. So we just got to go in and do our best and win a state championship.
How big is it for you when you came as a freshman? Everyone was saying with the whole group you guys have, wait until you see this 2026 class get to be juniors. Yeah. And now look where you're at now. How important is that for you to start with this group of freshmen? You're juniors now, undefeated, and you're going into the playoffs. How special is that for you?
It was really special to me. Since the beginning, they always talk about this 2026 class. It's gonna be something special. When we get to seniors, it's gonna be our senior, junior, varsity. It's gonna be a good year for us, and it's really shown that. I mean, most of our defense is mostly juniors, and we're 9-0. So,
Anthony, first, before we talk about the playoffs, one thing I did ask him about was that when this 2026 junior class, when they came in, there was a lot of promise. And I went back and I thought about it, that their first game against Bartram was funny because you saw Noah Hodge that we just talked about and Jacob Curry, with the number of tackles and how they're playing defense. They were actually playing both ways, and they were playing on offense. And actually, Noah Hodge actually received a pass from Derek Hardy to seal that game in the victory over Bartram when they were just freshmen. And when I look back on this team, and I mean, you look at the 2026 class, you got Jacob, you got Noah, you got Dylan Rhodes, you got Braden Felder out there, Cam Clinton, Derek Hardy, Dan Gluntz, Nate Sievert. The list goes on. And there's others I've missed, like Matt Jacobs, who's been out with a knee injury. He's a running back. He'll be coming back, hopefully. Emmett Haggerty. The list goes on. This 2026 class is something special, and they're coming back next year. But I think it's pretty cool that they kind of were able to see their goals as freshmen when they played together, and now they're achieving them. They got a district championship last year as sophomores. Now they got another district championship, a perfect in as juniors, and who knows where they're going to go from here. But I thought that was pretty cool what he had to say.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, they've got a lot of talented guys, and they're going to lose some seniors, but it's nice to know that they have a veteran enough group of enough juniors as upperclassmen that you're not gonna feel like you're not going to feel like you're replacing the entire defense or an entire unit. They got plenty of guys that have proven now that they deserve to be at the varsity level, and they feel really comfortable there. They're making plays every Friday night, and now they'll be seniors next year, and this playoff experience coming up will only help them as well. You just keep adding to that experience. It's already pretty massive at this point.
I think it was a great win. It was a great way to finish out the season, the perfect season for Nease. I have to say this, even though it was a tight game and people were on the edge a little bit, this game actually getting rescheduled and being played at Nease as the last home game, Anthony, I think it was a pretty cool atmosphere. I know you and I were both down on the field, but I think it actually kind of worked out for them. It was nice for them to cap that season, that perfect season at home.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was really, really nice. It's just to do it in front of the home crowd because they've had great crowds all year. The students always come out and pack the place, and it's just it's nice to reward the people that have come out there consistently every Friday night at home and are there for you, rooting you on. And I know the players, they feel it out in the field, they feel that emotion, and and I know they would say the same thing. It's just nice to finish it off in front of the home faithful, and now they'll have it throughout the playoffs, home advantage. So yeah.
And if you thought the crowd was big there to see them play against Bartram, just wait until this Friday night because it's going to be packed. All right, So let's roll into looking at the games this week. Let's start off with PV versus Beachside. And before we break it down, we have a special guest coming on. Coach Steve Price actually joined us earlier in the week. And here's what he has to say about the team, how they played this year, and also how things are going to be a little bit different when they face an opponent from the regular season compared to last year when they had to play Creekside the very next week. Coach, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
And congratulations, 8-2 on the season, 3-1, second in the district. Great season for you. Happy to see it.
Yeah, it's been an exciting year for our team and our guys, and I'm happy for them. Obviously there are a couple games there that we wish we could have won, but it overall was a great year.
Coach, let me ask you, one thing that people were talking about early on was the defensive line and some of the linebackers, how strong you were there, like with names like Greco and Kemp and Dolan, Babin, Pollock. But you also had a lot of turnover and a lot of new faces and young faces. One of the things that Anthony and I have been talking about is the secondary. And you also had some position swaps like with Finday. And then you had your young wide receivers with like Jack Burquest and David Dory, to name a few. When you look back on this season, is there something as a head coach that you look back and you go, wow, that was a nice surprise this year from our team? That was like just something that wasn't expecting, but man, did they step up. Is there something that just hit you like that?
I don't know that there's something quite like that hits me. Not, I do, like we knew coming into it that, we were going to be really young at wide receiver and defensive back. And, so I would say that was a concern for us. but our kids have matured and played really well. And we feel really good about both of those units going into the playoffs and then in the future. We really, Jack Berquist is a junior, obviously a really good wide receiver, and Cam Teetsy's a sophomore. Davitt Doherty is a junior as well. Caleb Stanton is a sophomore at tight end. So, those are the four starters on offense, and then you've got some really good second unit guys on offense with Darius Medina as a senior, and we'll miss him next year. But he's a really good player. Tucker Henderson is a sophomore that I think will have an unbelievably good year next year. And we've got Trey Smith and Troy Smith, and they're just really a talented young group there on offense, and we're excited to have them back. And then defensively, we'll graduate Mason Houseman in the secondary, but other than that, all those guys are coming back. Cooper Sebecki and Davis Latina started most of the games for us this year in the secondary, and Finn Day, and Finn has played really admirably. He's been bumped and bruised all year, but he continues to play hard, and so I feel excited about all those guys. We do have Luke Sunas, who plays corner, that we'll miss him next year, but I guess I wouldn't say we were surprised, but we were very, very pleased with how those two units came along.
When we talk about the young players, I can't help but ask you about Brian Case, who's just been an awesome player, not only to watch, but I've also had the opportunity to talk to him, and he's just a phenomenal young man. What has it meant to have Brian back as a senior, not just with his productivity, but his leadership on the field with this team?
Yeah, Brian is TV Shark through and through for his whole career. He did play early. He started as a sophomore. Really, really talented kid. He's got great speed and vision and power, and a great weight room guy. Really, really has done a great job for us for a long time. And he is, I think he's a great example of the quality of people that come out of Ponte Vedra High School. We are certainly proud of him. What a great young man.
Yeah, Coach, I was just wondering how what you thought of the role that it would play if you were to play a team that you're familiar with, that you played during the regular season, or even a district opponent like a Beachside or Fleming Island. And I know you're just how it will impact things, and if playing them will come into your mind when you're divining a game plan.
Yeah, I don't know. Through the year, teams change so much. It's been a long time since we played. I think there's a good chance we're either going to match up with Fleming or Beachside. And, we played Beachside, I think it was September 14th. We played Fleming, I think it was September 28th. So things change so much. I think anyone would much rather play somebody they haven't played. But, we're just going to be glad to keep playing. And it certainly is not going to be like last year where we played Creekside the last game of the season and then had to turn around and play them again, the very next week. That was really strange. But playing a team, the September 14th and then turn around and play them again November 14th, it's things happen and teams change a lot in those 8 weeks. So we'll just be ready to play whoever we get matched up with and be thankful for the opportunity, and we'll make the most out of it.
Coach, as a follow-up to that, you actually led me right to my next question, and actually my last one for you is that you talked about playing Creekside at the end of the year last year and then turning around, which I agree with you, it's kind of weird seeing you guys play them 1 week and turning around and hosting them the next in a playoff game. So when you look at that, the 1 week there versus having time now, say you match up with Fleming or Beachside, is there a difference from how you prepare for that where, you just saw the team, you turn around, you play them, but then there's probably an emotional side to that. But then you have Fleming and Beachside, which were played, as you said, earlier in the season. Now you got some more film on them to watch, and it's not as, say, awkward or weird that you just turn around and play them. Does that change your approach at all, or is it just, hey, because the one thing I will say before you answer that question is that when I talked to to some of the players, like, for example, Brian and Drew, they talk about how you guys just take it week by week and how the coaching staff gets them ready. So is there an advantage to having some time and space between it, or turn around and flipping and playing them 1 week later like you did Creekside last year?
Yeah, I think it's definitely. I think it was incredibly difficult last year to go over to Creekside and get beat, and then to come back and play again, kind of overcoming those emotions, those feelings of self-doubt, all those things. I thought that was incredibly difficult for our guys to do. And it was remarkable, I think, and real testament to them, especially those seniors from last year, that they were able to do that. I think that was an odd situation, and I think they performed incredibly well in that. But again, it's been so long since we've played Fleming and Beachside, and we'll break down the rest of their films, and we'll have a good game plan ready. But as far as carryover from those games to this game, I don't know that it really will. Especially, both those games we played Beachside, it was 17-14. We played Fleming, it was 31-29. Whoever we match up with, it's going to be a great football game, and we're just going to play hard and try to play clean and not turn the football over, and run around and hustle the football on defense and block well and tackle well. And we do all those things. We let the scoreboard take care of itself, because usually that's what you got to do to win.
Well, Coach, thanks for taking time to talk to us here on the 32081 Scoreboard Show. We wish you the best, and regardless of who you draw in the first round, we're hoping we see the Sharks keep on going down the region.
Thank you so much, Todd.
So I think he has some great stuff to say there, and I think the one thing that I kind of got away from his interview at the very end was I think he likes playing Beachside later versus having to turn around and play Creekside, because like you said, that was just weird. I remember you and I talking about that last year. We're like, how do you get up for a game, you lose, and you have to turn around and play again and get up, which they did, and then they lost to Buchholz. But I think now with the time that they've had, I think now you're seeing what Beachside has in their offense. They threw everything, like I said last week, in the kitchen sink at Nease when they played them for was it 2 games ago? So
yeah.
I think now it gives them a little bit more tape. They're a little bit more mature. It's not, you've kind of reset your emotions already. I think Ponte Vedra's in a good shape to play Beachside here, a little bit later in the season and host them as 4 and 5.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I thought it was interesting how you talked about, the teams do change so much throughout the season as players develop and grow, and having played them even, pretty much 2 months ago back in September, that's a long time, 2 months. So it could be totally, the scheme might be the same, but the confidence of the players, the way that they're playing, even the players that are playing due to injuries or just guys that have continued to step up into new roles, are totally different than the team that you faced in September. So it could create a whole new result, or just create a whole new way of looking at it as you game plan for the matchup the second time around. But yeah, I think Ponte Vedra actually can learn a lot from that first Beachside game. That was a 17-14 game, but they seemed in command. The score doesn't really reflect how it felt. It felt like the Sharks, they controlled the first half, and then Beachside was able to find some rhythm in the second half. So really, if they just put a whole game together, I don't think it shouldn't be as close this time. But again, you never know. The playoffs.
So actually, I like Ponte Vedra in this game. I like Ponte Vedra by 10-14. I think that one thing, I think Ponte Vedra has an advantage of watching the Nease versus Beachside game, because I think 2 things here. I think Nease showed a little bit of how you can expose the secondary weaknesses in Beachside. I think you can see that Nate and this young receiving core that Coach Price just talked about probably take advantage of that. And I also think that the defensive scheme is going to show something, because they were getting Eddie Jordan. They were containing him. They were not allowing him to run, which is one of his traits. So I like Ponte Vedra in this game. I think they're going to be fired up. I think the tank's going to be full. And again, I'm picking Ponte Vedra by 10-14.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. Because I think that Ponte Vedra, they will. I think that they'll know that they left some points definitely on the table the last time around. They should have been in the 20s instead of 17, and not just had it as close as late in the game. I think that they'll learn from that. The coaching staff will be on top of it, and yeah, definitely a key is how the defensive line for Ponte Vedra fares against the offensive line of Beachside, because last time the Sharks really had their way against them. So if they do that again, yeah, it could be a long night for Eddie again, and And this time the Sharks might, probably win by a lot more than 3.
And what's funny about that is that when we talked to Drew would say that we won, but we know we didn't play our best game. So when talking to him, he's like, we want to meet up with Fleming Island again because, of course, they won that one at the end. But he was also like, we want to take on Beachside again, too, because we haven't played our best game. We know we could play better than what we did, even though they walked away with a win. And that kind of goes in the mentality that we've talked about, is that they're just business-like. They go in, they want to fix stuff, and they want to get better and better. And the other thing, too, as I will say, is that Ponte Vedra has Noah Ash. Never underestimate, having that good of a kicker like him and Tyler Gazanvar in your back pocket. And I think Ponte Vedra has the edge in kicking. Wouldn't you agree with that?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, we've talked about the kickers in the past, and Noah. Yeah, and he's so young; he's got so much more to go. But with his leg and his accuracy, with the leg that strong, I mean, they once they get around midfield or just past midfield, like they're confident that they're going to have a chance for some points, even if they don't get it in the end zone. They can knock it down the uprights and get 3, and then if you get enough of those, that could be the difference in the game.
Now, Nease is hosting Tate this Friday night at 7 p.m. at the Den. Just so everyone knows, I know we had Coach Price, and appreciate him coming by, and I also want to let all the Nease people know, hey, we reached out to Coach Trask. We didn't hear from him. Probably busy trying to plan up for Tate. And now join us on the 320-81 Scoreboard Show, number 4 in your programs at Nease and number 1 in your hearts, the starting quarterback, Mr. Nate Harry. Nate, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Coming off that win, just feeling great.
I bet you are like on cloud 9. Well, actually, yeah, you are, right? 9-0, so you are on cloud 9. Listen, Nate, thanks for joining us. I appreciate it. I have a couple questions for you, but the first one I want to get to is that this has been, first of all, while it's been a tremendous year for the team, it's also been very unusual, especially with the hurricanes that came through. Buchholz got rescheduled. Bartram got moved, which was homecoming, to where you guys just played them last week, and you've had like 12 days off sometimes. It's been kind of weird, and congratulations on rebounding from all those trials and being able to go undefeated. But here's my question for you. My question is at this stage in the game with all the moving around, like if it was a normal season, I'd say, yeah, teams like to have that week off to get better and heal and go into playoffs. But in this particular case, in your opinion, from how the team is clicking, does it really matter, or is it kind of a hindrance? Because now you get to come back, you played Bartram, you're on a high, and now you get to roll into playing Pace, with an extra day because you played them on Thursday. So how are your feelings going into this with the way the schedule's worked out and you just get to roll straight into playoffs?
Yeah, I'd say that the weeks that we had off for the hurricane definitely messed some people up. But I would say that the reason why we were able to be so successful in doing that is because of the way we reacted to it and the way that we really stayed focused during those times. And I think that nothing really that anyone can throw at us is going to change what we can do as a team, because we're all, very disciplined in the way we practice and the way that we prepare for teams.
One of the things that's been really fun to watch you this year, Nate, is it's like you learn from every experience and every play. So you never get down if something doesn't work, and you come back, and the offense as a whole, as a team, really tries to figure out to make things better. Now, what was interesting is that since the St. Augustine game and the Buchholz game, I really felt like when you came into the stretch against Beachside and also against Bartram, that even though the score was a little lopsided with Beachside and not as much as Bartram, was that it seemed like to me they were giving you guys new looks and new things to look at, and they were throwing everything, including the kitchen sink, at you. So going up to against those two teams late in the season into the playoffs, giving you different looks than the other teams gave you on defense, is that helping you get prepared and the confidence and everything else going into playing against Tate on Friday night?
Yeah, definitely. Just learning from every situation that we get into back at Beachside and at Bartram, just throwing whatever they can at us, and we were really able to respond to that. So I guess that gives us that extra boost of confidence, knowing that whatever teams want to throw at us, we can handle and we can beat them.
So listen, I got to tell you also, you have a phenomenal family. Your dad and mom are great, and I love your cheering section, because I even told her maybe I have to work out coordinating something off. So I guess the last question I got for you is, did they give you guys a discount or anything, like a group discount, anything like that, or do we need to work on that for you?
No, I don't think they get a discount.
All right, man. Well, listen, I had to throw a little fun in there. Listen, best of luck against Tate. Congratulations on everything. Congratulations on graduating on a high note. I mean, I know this is probably better than you could have ever expected coming into the season. And thanks for joining us on the 320-81 Scoreboard Show.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
So the one thing I want to talk about here is that, especially towards the end when we're looking at the playoffs here, is that I think, one, he is correct, and this is what you and I have talked about, is him seeing the different schemes that, like, especially Beachside was throwing at him, going up against Bartram and really challenging them and having to rise to the occasion. I think that really sets them up for success, gives them a boost of confidence, even though, the defense was probably a little bit down because they said, we gave up some points. But I think it showed resilience. And I think having two games like that, even though the Bartram was a little bit out of control, but they were, it was still, Beachside was fighting them. I think those two key things, like he talked about, I think those are going to be very useful for them going in and playing Tate in the first round.
Yeah, definitely. It's going to be very, very useful for sure. And Tate's, they're kind of an interesting school in that they're 7-3, but they finished third in their district. They started out 5-0, so really had all this momentum early on. Then kind of just gotten some ups and downs as they entered district play and during the season. And so then Panhandle teams are always kind of interesting because they're a little bit of an unknown. You don't really play them much except for the playoffs, so it will create different challenges in the looks that they give as a defense. But I know Coach Drafts and the offense and Nate, and they'll all be ready for whatever they bring at them. And at the end of the day, you got the game at home in the Panthers' den, and you got to feel pretty confident as the number one seed that you got this thing.
And I really wasn't surprised, were you, by what he and Jacob both said when I asked them about going into playoffs without a week off. And they've been through that with the Hurricane. I think they were done with that and they're over with it. I think they like having just a routine of knowing that they're in their normal game week now and they're going to roll into Friday night. And I think this whole combination is setting up for a Nease big win on Friday night.
Yeah, I can definitely, I agree because, everyone talks about, it's good to have a bye week, and it is, but the playoffs, there's no bye weeks, it's just week after week after week, and the competition just keeps ramping up and ramping up and ramping up. So, and they haven't had to win, they haven't been in playoff mode having to win, but they've been wanting to win the district, and they've been kind of just playing games heading into the playoffs. So they're already kind of in that weekly mode of the next game, turn the page, the next game. And so I think that'll actually, it'll be unique to see, and it'll be I think definitely a benefit for the Panthers moving forward.
I also think, and when I give my prediction here, is that I also think that we saw a heavy, we talked to, I think it was Coach Babineau a while ago, hey, if they give us the rush, we'll take the rush. If they give us the pass, we'll take the pass, and we're able to do that. I think this particular week coming up against Tate, the one thing I've been seeing in my research with Tate is I think their secondary is going to have a very hard time with the receiving core. I see big nights by Tyler Gazanfari, by Braden Felder. And if they try to team up on them, I see some big, long, deep threats with Maddox. Probably we'll see some of his long TD receptions. I think their secondary is going to be overmatched on this one, Anthony.
Yeah, and if you look at the schedule, probably the closest game that they played throughout their regular season, Tate that is comparative to Nease's Pace, which is another top 5 team in Class 6A, and they lost that game 42-7. So if you're just kind of looking at the measurables and the metrics of it, they didn't fare too well in their other matchup against a top 5 team, and now you're facing the number 1 team. So it's I'm sure they're trying to find out how they can fix their issues that they had in that game. But so it's definitely in favor of Nease for sure.
I think so. I think we might get close to a running clock. I'm not sure we're going to hit it. I think that's kind of unusual in the playoffs. But I think this is an easy win. I think this is a good first round game for Nease, and I think we're probably looking at a 2-touchdown at least victory here. So, and I think also if they can get high enough, I think then Drafts can start looking at saying, okay, hey, how can I keep, the boys healthy for the following week? I think that'd be a very good position for them to be in by, say, the third quarter, the beginning of the fourth quarter, so that way they can rest some guys and ensure no one gets hurt. But again, I think this is going to be a victory for Nease by at least 3 touchdowns.
Yeah, and that's why you work so hard to get that number 1 seed in the region, so that you have not just home field, but also you have a little easier of a path. You open up against an 8 seed, which is that's a quality team. Tate's number 24 in 6A. It's not, so that's it is a good matchup. It's a good test early to just kind of knock off, any little rust that you had from the regular season and kind of switch to playoff mode. We're in the playoffs now. But yeah, so it's going to be a good test. But you work so hard for the number 1 seed, and Nease has it. And yeah, I think they know how to approach it and how to use it to their advantage.
So we got Ponte Vedra hosting Beachside 7 o'clock. That's at the Tank at Ponte Vedra. And then Nease is hosting Tate also at 7 o'clock, and that will be at the Den at Nease. And Anthony, I'm going to assume, knowing you're a creature of habit, that you're probably going to start over at Ponte Vedra and then finish out your night over at Nease. Would I be correct on that?
I was actually thinking of starting at Nease.
Oh, look at that! See, now you're so you're gonna break the habit. Okay, so you're gonna start at Nease, you're gonna end over at Ponte Vedra. You're gonna prove me wrong. Okay, well, you know what? If I'm wrong with that pick, okay, I'll take it as long as I get the other 2 right. So with that, that'll be the show. Anthony, thanks again for joining us. I think we're gonna be here for another week. I think we got some more football to talk about. So I think we're in for at least another 2 shows.
Yep, looking forward to it.
Sounds great. And, of course, we'll be texting like crazy, and our phones will be blowing up as usual when you're over at one place and I'm at the other. So that'll be fun. So, everyone, we hope to see you out there Friday night. Also, be sure to read Anthony's articles over at the PonteVedraRecorder.com. Anthony, you've got some cool articles coming out. Are they out already? Because I read it. I don't know if you published them tonight or if they're tomorrow about the state swim meets and stuff like that. I know
they'll be coming out.
Right?
Yeah, they'll be coming out in a couple of days. State swim meets, recapping all the state titles for Nease and Ponte Vedra, and then, previewing the playoff season to come for the football.
You'll probably capture everything I couldn't read, or I didn't have enough time to read here. So, and also thanks to Ms. Rosati for providing us to that. So check out Anthony over at PonteVedraRecorder.com for all those great articles. Also follow him on Twitter, especially during the playoffs. He'll have all the information for you coming right there over on X. So that is at ANTNY Rich. That is at ANTNY Rich. And for Mr. Anthony Richards, I am the Todd, and thank you for listening to the 32081 Scoreboard Show.
Thank you for listening to the 32081. We hope you enjoyed today's episode.
I love the show, guys. You're awesome.
Please don't forget to subscribe to the show so you can join us for the next episode.
I never miss an episode. It's the best.
Until next time, take care.